Hello everyone, today I'm going to tell you the story of a 16-year-old single mother, Diệu Hân. After many days of diligently selling cassava and passion fruit at the market, Hân had finally saved up a small amount of money. Though it wasn't much, to her it was the result of sweat, sleepless nights, and endless calculations. Today, she decided to use that modest sum to build a sturdy chicken coop and buy a few chicks, hoping it would be the first step toward changing her life. As dawn broke, Hân put on her worn-out jacket and walked alone along the narrow path into the forest. Amid the sound of birdsong and the constant chirping of cicadas, she searched for straight, sturdy bamboo stalks of just the right size. With each firm swing of her machete, the sharp thwack echoed through the quiet forest. After cutting down each stalk, she paused briefly to wipe the sweat from her brow before heaving the heavy bamboo onto her shoulder. Her small shoulders bore deep red marks from the weight, but her eyes remained resolute. When she returned home, Hân laid the bamboo down in the yard and began splitting each stalk into thinner slats. The sound of her blade striking the bamboo, thok, thok, mixed with the crisp cracking of the bamboo fibers. Carefully, she shaved and smoothed every piece, then wove them together into sturdy bamboo panels. Her calloused hands moved skillfully and methodically, as though she had long been accustomed to this kind of labor. Once the main frame was ready, Hân planted each bamboo post firmly into the ground, packing the soil tight to secure them. She raised the bamboo panels, connecting them piece by piece to form a solid structure. Beneath the scorching sun, sweat soaked her back, but she gritted her teeth and tied each joint with strips of rattan, tightening every knot with meticulous care. When the frame was done, Hân returned to the forest, this time to collect bundles of thatch. She cut the grass, tied it neatly, and carried it home on her back. One by one, she laid the thatch across the bamboo roof, layering it thickly to shield her future chickens from rain and sun. She bound each bundle tightly, leaving no gaps, as if pouring all her hopes into protecting her soon-to-be flock. By the time the sun sank behind the mountains, the modest chicken coop was finally complete. It wasn't fancy or elaborate, but it was sturdy and warm, just like the determination of the single mother standing before it. Hân wiped the sweat from her face and smiled at her work. She released the chicks she had bought into the coop, their cheerful chirping filling the air as if bringing new hope to her small world. "Hang in there, from now on, things will be different," Hân whispered softly, her eyes glimmering with unwavering faith in a better future, no matter how many hardships still lay ahead. After living for a while in the abandoned house deep in the forest, Hân and her young child gradually learned to adapt to their new life. Pepper season had arrived. Early this morning, as the first rays of sunlight pierced through the dew-soaked canopy, Hân woke up at dawn. She gently strapped her baby close to her chest, prepared a large bamboo basket and an old bamboo ladder, then headed to the garden with a heart full of hope. Before her stretched a lush green pepper garden like a vast natural carpet. The pepper vines clung tightly to the wooden stakes, heavy with clusters of ripe fruit. The sharp aroma of the pepper blended with the earthy scent of the damp forest and the cheerful chirping of birds, warming Hân's heart despite all her hardships. The little baby nestled in the sling against her chest. His tiny hands clutched the corner of Hân's shirt while his round eyes, at first wide with curiosity at the trees and leaves, slowly closed as he drifted off to sleep, lulled by his mother's soft humming and steady steps. Hân began her work. For the lower pepper vines, she skillfully picked each cluster, her calloused hands careful not to bruise the plump peppercorns. For the taller vines, she had to set up the bamboo ladder, gripping it firmly with one hand while stretching out the other to reach the clusters at the very top. Every now and then, she paused to wipe away the sweat running down her sun-kissed face with the back of her hand, then resumed harvesting tirelessly, as if she had long forgotten what it meant to rest. The rustling of leaves, the hum of insects, and the gentle breeze made the pepper vines sway, as though dancing in harmony with her steady rhythm. Each plump cluster fell into the basket with a soft clattering sound, a melody of hope to Hân's ears. The baby slept peacefully in the sling, his breathing calm and steady, his tiny face serene, untouched by the struggles of the outside world. Hân kept glancing down at him, her heart swelling with a quiet joy. No matter how hard life was, as long as her child was safe and sound, everything was worth it. From early morning until the sun leaned westward, the baskets of pepper gradually filled one after another. The golden afternoon sunlight bathed the garden, reflecting a contented smile on Han's suntanned face. She carried her child and the heavy baskets of pepper back to their small house. After laying her baby on the clean wooden floor and tucking him under the new blanket she had scrimped and saved to buy, Han went out to the porch. Carefully, she spread the peppercorns on bamboo trays to dry under the sun. The shiny green pepper glistened in the golden light, like a promise of a brighter tomorrow. Gazing at the sight before her, Han smiled softly and whispered to herself, "Just a little more patience, and our lives will get better." When her child finally fell asleep, Han took the chance to head out into the garden to pull weeds around the pepper plants. The late afternoon sun cast a soft golden light through the trees while a gentle breeze carried the earthy scent of damp soil mixed with the faint aroma of pepper leaves. The peaceful atmosphere was so quiet that only the distant chirping of birds and the soft hum of insects could be heard. Han bent down, her hands working swiftly to remove clumps of wild grass around the plants, silently thinking to herself, "If I just keep pushing through a little longer, everything will be okay for me and my child." But that calm was suddenly shattered. From a thicket near the pepper fence came a rustling sound that didn't belong. At first, Han thought it was just a field mouse or a small bird. Yet the sound grew heavier, slower, and far too deliberate to be anything ordinary. Han froze. Her hands still clutching the weeds she had just pulled, she lifted her head, and her breath caught. Emerging from the brush was a massive snake. Its body was long, as thick as a grown man's wrist, its glossy black scales glinting coldly in the waning sunlight like pieces of polished steel. Its crimson tongue flicked in and out, making a chilling tch, tch sound, while its unblinking yellow eyes locked onto Han, sending a wave of cold fear down her spine. "Oh my God," Han staggered back a step, her heart pounding so violently it felt like it might burst out of her chest. On instinct, she spun around and bolted back into the house, snatching up a heavy wooden stick propped in the corner. Her hands trembled, but when her gaze fell on her sleeping son, nestled peacefully in his sling, Han clenched her jaw and swallowed her fear. She wouldn't, let that snake get anywhere near her child. She stepped back outside. The snake was still there, its head raised, body coiled and ready to strike at any moment. Han gripped the stick tight and slammed it against the ground. Thud. Thud. The sharp sound echoed through the quiet pepper garden. "Get out! Get out of here!" Her voice quivered, but her tone was fierce. The snake didn't move. It tightened its coils, its cold gaze fixed on her like a predator sizing up its prey. Terrified but determined, Han advanced slowly, swinging the stick through the air and stomping her foot hard against the ground to scare it off. The pounding of wood against the earth rang out, drowning even the wind. The snake raised its head higher, its tongue darting faster, as if taunting her. Sweat poured down Han's face, soaking her clothes, but she didn't retreat. In her mind, only one thought burned clear: if it gets into the house, my baby will be in danger. Summoning every ounce of courage, she screamed and brought the stick down with a loud, forceful strike right near the snake's head. At last, the creature recoiled. Slowly, it slithered backward, its long body winding away and carving deep trails in the dirt, until it finally disappeared into the distant brush. Only then did Han drop the stick, her legs buckling beneath her. She collapsed to the ground, tears spilling down her cheeks, tears of fear, but also overwhelming relief. Clutching the stick like a shield, she returned to the house and sat right beside her son, her eyes fixed on the door, as if daring the snake to come back. It wasn't until the sun had fully set and the forest outside grew quiet again that Han finally let herself exhale. She reached out, gently stroked her child's cheek, and whispered, "As long as you're safe, I can endure anything." Early that morning, as the first rays of sunlight filtered through the forest canopy and fell on the small cottage, Han awoke at dawn. In front of the porch, the baskets of pepper she had dried the day before were now crisp and fragrant, filling the air with their distinctive aroma. Carefully gathering each basket, she neatly placed them onto her worn-out carrying pole. Her little boy, strapped snugly against her chest, looked around with wide, curious eyes, quietly taking in the world around him. On the winding dirt path shaded by tall trees, Han walked toward the market, softly humming a lullaby to her son. Villagers who passed by greeted the mother and child with warm smiles, some even praising her. "Han, your pepper this year is beautiful. You truly have a gift for tending crops." Han smiled gently in return, her heart warmed by their words. The days of hardship, wandering aimlessly in the forest, now seemed far behind her. At last, she had begun to find a sense of peace and hope for herself and her child. When she reached the market, Han set up her small corner. The glossy, perfectly ripened peppercorn clusters immediately caught the attention of passers-by. Buyers quickly gathered, voices buzzing as they bargained back and forth. In no time, her baskets were nearly empty. Counting the money in her hands, Han couldn't hide her joy. Today, she had earned more than usual. On the way home, she passed by a small clothing shop at the edge of the village and stopped. Her eyes lingered on the neatly hung rows of children's clothes, their bright colors swaying gently in the breeze. She looked down at her little boy sleeping soundly in the sling, his rosy cheeks like those of a tiny angel. "It's been so long since my baby had a new outfit," she thought, her heart tightening slightly. Without hesitation, she stepped inside. The shopkeeper greeted her with a warm smile. Han carefully chose several small sets of clothes, each perfectly sized for her son's slender but healthy frame. When she tried one on him, the boy stirred, blinked a few times, then broke into a wide smile, a smile so pure and radiant it nearly brought tears to Han's eyes. Back home, the two of them were filled with happiness as if the hardships of the past had never existed. The boy ran and played around the yard while Han tidied up, watching him with a look full of tenderness. Deep inside, her hope grew stronger. No matter how many difficulties lay ahead, as long as her child was by her side, she could endure anything. That evening, in the little cottage nestled against the forest, the sound of a child's laughter rang out, blending perfectly with the simple yet profound happiness of a mother and her son. In the days that followed, after the chicken coop was completed and the little chicks began chirping happily in the yard, Han didn't allow herself a moment's rest. She knew that for her and her child to live a more stable life, she needed a proper place to cook. And so, she began her next task, building a small kitchen next to the old, worn-down house where they lived. Deep in the forest, there was no good timber, no building materials, only what nature provided: bamboo, rattan, and thatch grass. At dawn, when the morning dew still clung to the leaves, Han carried her baby on her back, a sharp knife in hand, and set out for the forest. The sound of her footsteps mingled with the whisper of the wind through the trees, but her gaze remained steady, filled with determination. She carefully chose sturdy, straight bamboo stalks, pouring all her strength into each swing of the blade. Every strike echoed through the forest, a testament to her unyielding will. When the bamboo finally fell, she stripped the branches and carried the heavy stalks on her thin but steady shoulders. Sweat trickled down her face, her arms ached, but she made no complaint. Her silent resolve was fueled by the thought of her baby sleeping peacefully on her back. Back at the house, Han meticulously split the bamboo into smaller pieces. She pounded each section until it softened, shaping it into flexible but strong slats. She tied them together tightly with forest vines, weaving them into neat, sturdy panels, each one becoming a protective wall for her small but precious home. When the frame was complete, she ventured once more to the forest's edge, cutting bundles of long, fresh thatch grass. Under the blazing sun, she wove the grass into thick sheets for the roof. Her calloused hands moved skillfully, every knot tied with precision. The thatched roof, though simple, stood strong and ready to shield her and her child from sun and rain alike. As Han worked tirelessly, her baby lay quietly in the sling, occasionally opening his round eyes to watch his mother. It was as if he understood her struggles. Sometimes, Han would pause, step inside, and cradle him with a gentle smile before returning to her labor. Those brief moments were enough to wash away her fatigue. Day after day, her work continued. When materials ran low, she carried her baby into the forest again. His tiny feet wriggled, his little hands clutching her shoulders, but he never cried. Now and then, he would nuzzle into her back and drift off to sleep, his soft breath syncing with her steady steps. Swing after swing of the hammer, bundle after bundle of bamboo, sheet after sheet of thatch, and at last, the little kitchen stood complete. Though humble, it was solid and warm. Han stood back, gazing at the work of her own hands, and her heart swelled with pride. She pictured the glow of firelight dancing across her son's innocent face at night, as the two of them shared a simple but comforting meal together. For Han, this was more than just a kitchen, it was proof of her strength, her resilience, and her unwavering love for her child. After cutting enough large and small branches, Han sat down and carefully tied them into neat bundles. Each bundle was secured with crude forest vines, but they were tightly bound, carrying the meticulous care of a woman who had endured countless hardships. Without stopping there, she gathered more dry branches to use as firewood. Though her shoulders ached with exhaustion, Han kept pushing herself, carrying the heavy bundles on her back as her small feet trudged slowly along the rugged forest path covered in gravel. Sweat streamed down her thin face, each salty drop sliding past her lips, but Han did not stop. In her tired eyes still shone a glimmer of determination, because she knew every bundle of wood and every stalk of bamboo she brought back was another piece of hope for building a better life for her and her child. But just when she was almost home, disaster struck. The path was slippery from the rain the night before, and Han accidentally stepped on a moss-covered rock. She lost her balance, slipped, and fell into a damp hole nearly half a meter deep. The sudden impact made her heart skip a beat. Her leg was trapped in the muddy ground, pain shooting so sharply that she couldn't lift it out. In her panic, Han's first instinct wasn't to think of herself but to clutch the child strapped to her back, soothing him with a trembling voice. "Sweetheart, it's all right. Mommy's here." Once she was sure the baby was safe, Han looked down at her own leg. A searing pain radiated from her calf up to her hip, sending cold sweat running down her back. She gritted her teeth and slowly tried to pull her leg free. The mud clung to her as though it wanted to swallow her whole, but Han refused to give in. With every ounce of strength left in her, Han finally managed to free herself. Her hands trembled, her face was pale, but she still hoisted her baby onto her back and bent down to pick up the fallen bundles of wood. Then, step by heavy step, she began the long walk home. Each movement felt like a knife twisting into her wound, but Han endured it in silence. In her mind was only one thought: if I collapse, who will take care of my child? The road home felt endless. Her swollen, bruised foot throbbed with pain, as though it refused to move any further. At last, after what felt like an eternity, Han reached home. She set down the bundles in the corner of the kitchen and collapsed onto the dirt floor, gasping for breath as if she had just escaped a nightmare. When she hurriedly pulled off her worn-out shoe, her foot was already swollen and dark with bruises. Yet Han didn't utter a single complaint. She gently laid her baby on the simple bamboo bed, caressing his tiny face as if drawing strength from him. Even though the pain in her leg was unbearable, she pushed herself up to cook for her child. As she fed him spoon by spoon, she smiled faintly and whispered with a trembling voice, "As long as you eat well and sleep soundly, Mommy can bear the pain." After feeding him, Han planned to leave her baby with the neighbor and head to the clinic to have her leg checked. Each step she took felt like it tore through her flesh, but she didn't stop. Just then, a kind-hearted man from the village passed by and, seeing Han limping while carrying her child, quickly rushed over. "What happened to you? Let me help." After hearing her story, he didn't hesitate. He took the heavy bundle of wood from her shoulder and helped her and her child onto his old motorbike. The road to the clinic was short, but for Han, it felt like salvation. As she sat on the bike, holding her baby tightly against her chest, tears welled up as she whispered, "Don't worry, sweetheart. Mommy's going to be okay." For the first time after such a long, painful day, Han finally exhaled in relief. In that moment, she knew that no matter how many hardships came her way, as long as her child was with her, she would never give up. After a thorough examination, the doctor gently bandaged and stabilized Han's injured leg. The kind, elderly doctor's face was filled with concern. "You must rest completely for a few days. Don't walk around too much. Here are painkillers and anti-inflammatory medicine. Remember to take them on time. Han nodded in gratitude, her voice trembling from pain and exhaustion. She carefully accepted the medicine from the doctor, clutching it as if it were a small ray of hope in her harsh life. The kind-hearted uncle, worried that Han had no one to take her home, patiently waited outside. When he saw her limping out while holding her child, he quickly rushed over to help her onto his motorbike. "I'll take you home. Don't worry about a thing." Han could only whisper a soft thank you, her heart overwhelmed by a rare sense of warmth. On the way back, waves of pain shot through her leg, but she held her child close, gently patting him as if to comfort herself. The baby rested his cheek against his mother's chest, breathing softly, his tiny hands clutching her shirt like a lifeline that gave her strength. When they neared home, she stopped by her neighbor Men's house to pick up her son. Seeing Han limping with her bandaged leg, Men hurried over, her face full of worry. "Oh dear, what happened to you, Han? Why don't you leave the boy here with me? Take a few days to rest." But Han only smiled faintly, shaking her head, her eyes filled with quiet determination. "Thank you, but I still want to bring him home. Only he can give me the strength to keep going." The mother and child slowly made their way back to their small house, each step painful but resolute. Every movement felt like a battle against her own body, yet she refused to collapse. Once home, Han gently placed her child down on the floor, letting him play quietly. Despite the throbbing pain in her leg, Han hobbled to the kitchen with the help of a stick. She chopped firewood, each strike echoing in the silence of the house, like the heartbeat of a mother who wouldn't give up. She lit the fire and cooked a simple pot of porridge for them both. The smell of smoke and warm porridge filled the house, making it feel unexpectedly comforting despite its simplicity. After dinner, Han carefully took her medicine, then held her child close in her arms. Though her leg was swollen and aching, her heart was full of determination. She had to recover quickly because there was still so much she needed to do. As night fell, the little house grew quiet, with only the sound of the wind whispering through the forest outside. The baby clutched his mother's hand while Han gazed at him with a tearful smile. Gradually, the two of them drifted off to sleep, carrying with them the hope that tomorrow would be a better day.
Xin chào tất cả mọi người đã quay trở lại về kênh của mình. Hôm nay thì mình đưa đến mọi người một nội dung mới ở trên kênh của mình, đó là câu chuyện về mẹ đơn thân Diệu Hân. Và trong câu chuyện của mẹ đơn thân Diệu Hân thì có một người nữa, đó là Ngọc Ánh. Ngọc Ánh thì cũng là một cô gái nghèo khổ. Và trong phần này thì mình muốn giới thiệu đến mọi người câu chuyện của Diệu Hân cùng với cuộc sống tình yêu của cô ấy, cũng như là những khó khăn mà cô ấy đã trải qua. Cô ấy là một người mẹ đơn thân đưa theo con mình tên là Tôm. Cuộc sống diễn ra rất là khó khăn khi cô xuất thân từ một cô gái bị bạo lực gia đình đi ra và phải bươn trải một mình để nuôi con. Vậy thì liệu cuộc sống của Diệu Hân sẽ diễn ra như thế nào cùng với những người bạn của cô, đó là Ngọc Ánh, Danh và một số người nữa? Thì mọi người hãy cùng theo dõi video hôm nay cũng như là theo dõi video những tập sau nữa để có thể biết thêm thông tin nhé mọi người.